Welcome to The Culture. We rest at the pulse of the community, providing all things news, music, fashion, events, and everything that we talk about in between. It's a lifestyle. We are The Culture. Hi, and welcome to another edition of The Culture. I'm your host, Jessica Garrett-Modkins, and joining us today, we have Senator Annette Taddeo. She is a congressional candidate, and we're so excited to bring her on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here with you.
Yes, has been a long day coming, and then with all of the recent things that have been happening, we knew that we had to get you on to The Culture so that you can have a platform to speak your truth. Now, this last Friday or so, you had a press conference at Second Baptist Church. Tell us what made you go into this direction to have a church in the heart of Richmond Heights, and what was your goal?
Well, the key word you use is I'm on here to speak my truth. And what a great word, truth. And I will tell you what brought me to do that press conference is how appalled I was when I saw one of the attack ads against me, calling me a socialist and claiming that one of the meetings, they use a picture, that a meeting that constantly our community has, specifically Richmond Heights and Perrine, always having community meetings where anyone can come and we talk about different issues and elected officials can show up and listen and have that conversation and be present. They use that picture at Second Baptist Church to say that that was a meeting of socialists. And I was not just insulted for myself, I was insulted for the community, because this is a representative that supposedly, that I'm running against, Maria Elvira, that claims to be running for the community, but here she is using a picture of our community, of all the wonderful things that this community brings. And when I called the different pastors to ask them about my opponent, to see if maybe she had ever been to a meeting or to a church or any of the numerous opportunities for the 2 years that she's been the congresswoman, they said not only that they had never met her, never heard from her, never been to a meeting, but they also said they've only seen her on TV. And that to me is unacceptable. Not only that she's attacking me, but that she is attacking our community and the fact that I proudly represent all communities. And I'm just disgusted by it. And so the pastors joined me. The NAACP leadership also joined, because again, usually the NAACP is part of these meetings and these conversations that bring us together to try to find solutions, instead of attack ads on a TV that are totally false, but more than false, they're insulting.
Well, thank you for that. And what was the outcome? How many people came? You spoke about the pastors, you spoke about NAACP. For those who didn't get to see the recap with Michael Putney on Channel 10 with Glenna Milberg, what was the outcome of it?
Well, we called out the lies, and we talked about how this community has always come together. See, my opponent doesn't even know that there is a coalition of pastors, South Dade pastors, that come together, led by the pastor of Second Baptist, and all the other pastors joined. So there were numerous pastors there present, speaking on behalf of the community, speaking on how, you know, they wanted to stand with me proudly, because I have been present, not just come election time, but present all the time, as anyone that wants to represent a community should be. And the NAACP, nonpartisan organization, very clearly said we are nonpartisan, but we're here because we do not like it when our community is used with lies. And so all of that came about with Michael Putney doing an entire segment on the lies of these commercials, and how he called it's a bunch of hooey. And he said, and that is a scientific term, And in essence, it's so sad. We are at a time when we should be talking about solutions. What are you going to do in Washington to, regardless of party, to bring people together to help us come through these difficult times, whether through COVID that we went through that has affected our economy, not just here, but globally. And of course, the fact that we are also uh, dealing with the issue of the war in Ukraine with Russia, and that is also affecting globally a lot of our economy. So there is a lot that we need to be talking about, but not blaming a community meeting in the heart of Richmond Heights, which is historically a community we should be proud of, that is going through a lot because there is a lot of gentrification going on in Richmond Heights and Perrine, and we should be talking about solutions and not someone that never even bothers to show up in the neighborhood.
So you touched on this, the solutions for gentrification. What are some things that you have that may be a part of your platform?
Look, there is no question that housing affordability is something that we are dealing with, and it's causing a lot of the gentrification in traditionally uh, Black neighborhoods, for example. And we should be talking about the fact that, for example, we have not invested in affordable housing. It's been 20 years of raiding our affordable housing trust. I've been fighting for this in Tallahassee now 5 years, and been trying to make it in a way that it won't be, no matter who's in power, that they won't be able to take that money for anything but affordable housing. But I also want to talk about other types of housing, which is workforce housing. We don't have enough of it, and where are our workers going to go? And this is causing a lot of the other issues. But then there's also the insurance. And one of the things that has really affected also the housing crisis is the fact that insurance has gotten prohibitive. I want to go and in Washington propose a catastrophic insurance, just like we have flood insurance that is a federal program. We need to have insurance for catastrophic situations. And that way, when you buy your hurricane insurance or your insurance on your home, you'll be covering not the catastrophic situation, but you'll be covering damages, or if your house burns down, things that are normal insurance, versus the fact that these hurricanes are getting heavier and heavier, and due to climate change, another big issue that we have to invest in. And what a lot of people don't realize is that when you go to Washington as a congressperson, that one of the biggest things you can do is bring back the dollars. And right now we have a representative that keeps voting against every one of the solutions to the many problems we have. And instead says that she votes against it because it's socialism. Socialism, just like the commercial. But then turns around, for example, the infrastructure package and the bill that was passed. She voted against it, said it was socialism, but then turned around and sent a letter to the Biden administration asking for dollars for the Port of Miami, which of course we all depend on. And unlike the previous administration, the Biden administration sent $17 million to the Port of Miami. But now she's trying to take credit for that money and run on that. And she voted against it and said it was socialism. This is the kind of nonsense that we don't need from an elected official. We need someone that's actually going to fight for the money, but also understand how important this is for us. And one more thing that I want to say about housing. A lot of elderly folks are in houses that need updating. It's called weatherization, and they can't afford to weatherize their windows, for example, or to fix their roof so that these storms don't blow them away, or their garage door, or any of the things that need to be weatherized for the fact that the weather is getting worse and worse. But I want to be able to bring back grants and actual resources so that people can stay in their home. And this is really important because one of the reasons that a lot of elderly are selling is because they can't afford the insurance. And this brings down the insurance when you weatherize the homes.
Mm, important topic. Yeah. And then you brought this up as well, the congressional district. What are your boundaries for the office in which you're running?
Our boundaries are from downtown Miami, right by the port. It includes the port of Miami. So the highway that takes you to Miami Beach is the divider. So everything south of the highway to Miami Beach is what's our district. So Brickell, uh, downtown Miami, Little Havana, Key Biscayne, Coral Gables, Coconut Grove, uh, Pinecrest, Palmetto Bay, Cutler Bay, Perrine, Richmond Heights, and the entire area of the Falls and Kendall, all the way to the Turnpike. So it is a very large district, but it has pockets of important historic communities, and very important that everybody understand that this is one of the top flippable seats. I, I I want you to know that I was in Tallahassee when the maps were drawn. And of course, we ended up going with the map. I didn't vote for this, but we ended up going with the illegal maps, in my opinion, of Ron DeSantis. But because he wanted to delete certain African American districts. And I think eventually they'll be tossed out. But my district remained as the only district that is even. And by even, I mean number of Republicans, number of Democrats, and number of no party affiliations. So it is in the whole state the most flippable seat of not just the state, but actually one of the most flippable in the country. So our race is very, very important for all of the decisions we're going to make in Congress, especially since the Republicans that want to take over the House of Representatives have already said on the record that they want to hold Social Security and Medicare hostage. Hostage. This is the word they use, so that they can negotiate with the White House. I'm sorry, but all of us pay into Social Security and Medicare. This is not a giveaway. This is not something that you play with. People live off of their Social Security, and they get their health insurance from Medicare once they reach that age. And it is unconscionable that they're actually talking about holding it hostage, or in the case of my opponent with Rick Scott, sunsetting it. They want to get rid of it. Unbelievable. I can't believe we're even discussing this. So for anyone thinking of staying home and not voting, please don't do that. Go out and vote, because this race in particular, this congressional race, will be about decisions such as Social Security and Medicare, something that we have paid into. It is not a giveaway.
And right now we're in such a troubled time where it is looking as if this party is against that party, and we're really looking for someone who will be able to go across the aisle. And understanding that this is not your first rodeo, can you give our viewers some examples of how you've been able to effectually be able to bring about change working with the opposing party?
Look, I've served for 5 years since I won a special election to the state senate. I won that special election after my predecessor had to resign in shame. And we had a special election, and then I got reelected. And they have spent a lot of money trying to beat me in these races. But we have won, thanks to the coalition of voters that we've created. And I will tell you that I'm very proud of my 5 years, and the fact that I've been there for 5 years, effectively working for the people. And all of their attack ads are with falsehoods about socialism and communism and ridiculous attacks, shows that they can't even find anything to hit me on for my record. And my record is actually of working across the aisle and getting things done. And many of my bills that I passed, one of them, the first one, dealt with flood insurance. And the fact that so many people don't realize the importance of having that coverage, because we are ground zero for sea level rise. In addition to that, I also was very good at working across the aisle to bring back the dollars necessary for our community, whether it was for transportation or infrastructure projects, but also for good community organizations. And I also, for example, another bill that I passed dealt with our kids' education, those who are learning, not learning disabled or any kind of situation where they need a program for them to graduate or to do continuing education. And I've actually reduced the age to start planning on their education plans for any of them, for example, autistic kids and any of the other kids that may have some issues in their learning. And it has been such a well-received bill that I became the legislator of the year for Autism Speaks. And now this bill has become a model to be followed throughout the country. And other states are starting to reduce the age for that planning that is so important for parents and for the kids to really prepare themselves to be part of society and to get a job so that they can have a fruitful life. And so I'm very proud of that. But there's so many things that I'm proud of, but most of the things that I did accomplish in my 5 years actually happened in the background. I developed such a good relationship across the aisle that the Democrats in the Florida Senate made me their whip, because I could count votes and I could know which Republican did we need to talk to kill a bad bill. One of the biggest bills that I killed more than once was the what I call the union busting bill, a bill that would, in essence, destroy unions in Florida. And I have done that more than once with making sure that we had the votes behind the scenes. No articles, no fanfare, just knowing who to talk to make sure that it never saw the light of day on the floor of the Florida Senate, so that we can make sure that people can continue to have their dues taken from their paycheck when they join a union.
And Senator, closing thoughts on what's at stake. You mentioned Social Security. What are some other issues that people need to understand that with a vote for you means a vote on the ballot for these various things?
Well, look, obviously women's rights are on the ballot, as well as our children's safety is on the ballot. My daughter goes to public school right here in Miami-Dade, and I can tell you that our kids should be concerned about the tests they're going to take or what they're going to do after high school. They should not be concerned about making it through the school year without being shot. And it is really a problem that we have that we need to deal with. But more than anything else, I have to tell you, I came from Colombia when I was 17. My dad was kidnapped by a terrorist group in Colombia. My dad was in the Air Force. I wear my dad's ring from the Air Force. He was in the U.S. Air Force. My dad, American from New Jersey. My mom is Colombian. And that fighting spirit I get from my dad, that's why I'm such a big fighter. But I just want you to know that this ring, I wear it not just in his honor, but also to always remember that our democracy is not something to take for granted. And I know that after what we saw on January 6th, I know that many of us now realize how there are still election deniers. I am running against an election denier, someone who has on record said that people that weren't even registered to vote voted, someone who won't accept that Joe Biden was duly elected the president of the United States. So there is a lot of reasons, but I really want you to understand that our democracy, it comes first, and that we need to elect people that are going to put our country before party always.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you coming to provide clarity to your platform and what was being touted in the news that were false facts or false truths. So we appreciate you coming on to make your truth known and to clear the record. And then for all of you at the culture, we encourage you to get out to vote. Time is of the essence. It's very important to let your voice be heard. And for those of you who are free tonight, I invite you to come back tonight at 6 p.m. where you can enjoy the shenanigans, the group. Once again, grab a drink, come back at 6 p.m. tonight for My 2 cents. We'll see you next week.
The Culture is produced and owned by the Culture Media Group and cannot be reproduced or broadcast without written consent. All rights reserved 2022.